Best Bets show hosted by BetRivers. I'm Kai McEwen. We are the three-man weave here to take you through another awesome slate of college basketball. And fellas, I think this might be our first Sunday show of all time. If not, it's one of our very few. Matthew.
We did one, Kai.
We did one.
During the March Madness. It was at 7 a.m. from Vegas.
How could I forget? How could I forget, Jim? Matt Cox, you're still in Hawaii. You got that lay working for you. It looks great. Takeaways from yesterday. How's Hawaii?
Hawaii's great. It's early, but weather phenomenal. And this is just an ode to the gambling, the basketball gods that we do a show on the Sabbath. So I think it's only fitting, and I think they should reward us with some winners, hopefully, if everything pans out properly. Kai, takeaways from yesterday, I think going into today as well and into the Turkey week, the MTEs are weird. Excuse me.
They are.
A lot of volatility, in-game swings. We saw some very frustrating, a few encouraging swings in our favor in the second halves, but mostly a lot of games that went against us. Just a lot of head-scratching, type of final scores and in-game wild ebbs and flows. Jim, I guess my point is this. The motivation for every team is vastly differs in these, especially like in the consolation bracket situations in these round-robin formats. I'm kind of treading lightly with these types of games. My advice to you would be look at those. If you can understand who might be more motivated, then you have an edge, but it's tough to dig into. So I don't know. I'm just kind of scared, Jim. I'm shook. That's where I'm at.
Specifically advice to me is what you're saying?
No, to all of us. To all of us, Jim.
I thought you were directing that.
I don't want to single out an individual.
Down,
no.
All right.
Would never do that.
I say go nuts on the MTEs. don't be careful. No, my takeaway, guys, it's kind of been brought up before, but the A10 stinks. It stunk yesterday. Richmond couldn't get it done at Drake. VCU lost another bye game to Chattanooga. Dayton lost its third straight bye game. Rhode Island lost to Tulsa. St. Joe's got run out at home by Monmouth. It's just a bad league. It really might be a one-bid league. Unfortunately, George Mason had the loss to James Madison after their big win against Maryland. I'm concerned about the A10, but the crown jewel of the A10, Kai St. Bonaventure, could get a huge one today, and that is a game we will discuss.
We will indeed, Jim. And I will do one more takeaway, and then we'll segue into our first game. Purdue, North Carolina was fun yesterday. That was a treat to watch. The 9-point margin at the end of the game wasn't indicative of how just kind of back and forth it was. Purdue pretty much controlled it the whole way, but UNC was feisty. Just a fun game to watch. Lots of scoring. We always love that. Villanova, on the other hand, just demolished Tennessee. That was not even a good game to watch, and I was disappointed at noon to see such a blowout. But anyways, let's go right into the show with Villanova and Purdue, the two winners of those games. Matt, game of the year.
What?
I think it might be. Both teams super impressive. I just talked about Nova eviscerated Tennessee. Purdue looked pretty comfortable against UNC. Any leans in this game? I think it's 2.5 right now. Purdue favored by 2.5. Oh, it's up to 3 at BetRivers. Purdue -3. What do you think?
I think the proper line was right in between where it opened and where it is currently. So I think that there's some, you can go back and forth on, is the smart money smart here, Jim? I think the main takeaway for me was Villanova against Tennessee. We talked about the under on yesterday's show, and the, I guess, undetected component of both sides of the ball was Villanova's defense and how good it was. I think that showed out yesterday. Yes, the Vols offense can help defenses look very good. So let's be honest about that. And this is a different type of test for an awesome Nova defense, which if there's one weakness, at least that we think, it's up front in the middle. Eric Dixon will have to put his big boy shorts on. Jim, you watched these games more closely yesterday. What are you looking at from a matchup perspective?
The post matchup, I think, is huge. Purdue is at the third highest rate in the country for synergy on post-ups, including passes. They can just run at you in waves with Williams and Edey. Villanova is going to have to really pressure the ball. That's something they've done. They've kind of pushed out on teams a little bit more to compensate for their lack of interior strength. They're going to have to double. They're going to have to rotate, which is something we've seen them do. They are fully capable of flying around and making disciplined rotations, but Purdue will punish you if you have even the slightest mistake. I mean, we saw Stefanovic go off yesterday, close to a career high. I think he got. So if you're not super sharp defensively, and one day after having a fantastic performance, perhaps they will be, but That is a concern. I'm curious to see how that works out. But on the other end, you have an edge. Like you're going to be able to put Edey in space. You're going to be able to put Williams in space. Like that is they're fully capable of that. Dixon is pretty mobile. I'm curious to see how Purdue defends Villanova, because it's easy to think about the size, and that's like where your head first goes. But the spread out nature on the other end is definitely an advantage for Nova. Kai, quick question before you analyze this. Is this game of the year over Gonzaga UCLA coming next day in a mere 2 days? Actually,
game of the year so far.
Okay,
I'll say that.
Hey, if we can have a new game of the year every couple days, I'm in for that. That's great.
Yeah, I agree with spacing. Villanova is going to space Purdue out. UNC did it. They hit 12 for 29 from three. They were getting good looks. I think they kind of showed the blueprint to spacing, and Villanova does it even better than UNC. But like Matt said, like you mentioned, the inside is where Nova just doesn't really have an answer to guard Williams or Edey. You're right. It's going to have to come from the perimeter. I like Villanova's wings a lot better than UNC's wings defensively. I think Stefanovic is going to have a harder time getting shots off against the likes of Justin Moore, Jermaine Samuels, Slater, Daniels. The list goes on. And on.
Slater's a monster.
Yeah. Put him on Stefanovic. I don't think he's hitting 5 or 6 threes, whatever he hit yesterday. So I actually like Villanova here at +3, leaning that way. Purdue's the real deal for sure, but just a tad too many points for me. Leading Cats. Go Cats.
One more little tip. I think I might recommend the under. We talk about those matchups. Colin Gillespie, we were just enthralled by his ability to post up. We've seen him do that more and more, especially yesterday. It was very much featured in their offense. But man, posting up Jaden Ivey in the length that Purdue has, I'm not sure that's going to go as well. So I don't know. I go back and forth between the cat and mouse stylistic clashes. Does it bode well for the defense or the offense? I tend to think the defense has the bigger advantage. And so I think this could be another rock fight-esque game.
I don't know. They're too efficient, man.
I'll build off that though. I think you need to keep Purdue out of transition, which feels really weird to say, but like there was a 9
this year they've been excellent. Yeah.
9-point run yesterday where Jaden Ivey had 2 assists for threes and then an and one. He's just a lightning bolt when he gets going in transition. And Villanova is awesome at taking that away. I think they really try to turn this into a half-court game. And while Purdue's size will certainly show up in that element, it's better than letting them get out and run and get open threes. So I'm kind of with you, Matt, leaning towards the under.
All right, next game, Michigan versus Arizona. Our buddy Jim Root is going to be in the building at the Roman main event in Las Vegas. Jim, are you surprised at the line? Odds makers giving Arizona a lot of respect here. It's +3 right now, Arizona. KenPom has it at 6, and it opened around 3 or 4. I think Zona's the real deal. I really do, but I'm surprised the discrepancy we're seeing between KenPom and odds makers on this particular game.
I'm surprised and bummed because Kai, I like was sitting at the first day Roman main event and added a future on Arizona at 95-1 because they looked awesome. They're huge. They've got talent. They just didn't shoot the ball that well. So that score looked really close and they were kind of sloppy handling the ball against Wichita's pressure. But I think they're the real deal too. I saw a stat today as I was researching for the show. Michigan is 31-12 against the spread over the last 5 years on neutral courts, which is insane. 9-3 under Juwan Howard. So if you want to just narrow it down to Howard's time, but I'm not really buying that as like a super big indicator. I did want to see this at 5. Kai would have taken Arizona up there, but the odds makers were like, boom, 3. This is where it belongs. We're disregarding the analytics. We've seen the same games you have. Unfortunately, Matt, we don't get to see that number that we were hoping for.
Yep, 5 was the magic number I wrote down, and of course they opened 4.5 smartly, and then even some big money came in and pushed it down to 3.5. So if it was 4, I might give it as an official show play. I love Arizona. I think we look back at this game in a month or two, and we said if these two teams played again, we'd make it a pick. Arizona was mighty impressive. If it weren't for Ticey, I think Arizona is the real deal. And okay, Kai doesn't agree. We will archive this and we will bring receipts back in January. But here's my take. I mean, Wichita State should have lost by 25. Without Tyson Etienne's like otherworldly circus shot making, that game was going to be a runaway. And Michigan has some cracks. I think their backcourt has not been as solid and stable as I would have hoped. Yeah, that's a minor nitpick, I know, and it's tough to get in a trance over Diabate and how good he's been. But man, I think
he was incredible on Friday.
Incredible. Now, Kai, and I guess the counter to that is Arizona's backcourt isn't some prolific, dynamic juggernaut either. It's been rock solid, but I think these two teams are actually very similar in nature, and I think the talent stacks up, the size stacks up. So if you look at it from that angle, you could argue there's some value on Arizona, even at the current number, but it's just too low. I can't endorse it at 3.5.
If you're calling a pick, you have to think Arizona's a top 5 team. And I can't get there quite yet. I think they're really, really good and could be top 15 good right now, but top 5's maybe a bridge too far. However, I do lean towards Arizona in this game because, Matt, you mentioned a little bit their size. Koloko, Tubelis, Ballo. I mean, that's a lot of guys you can throw at Dickinson. Shut him down. Michigan has a lot harder time to score. On the other end, Arizona's facing by far the best defense they've seen this year. Wichita usually has a good defense, but like you guys said, they kind of toyed with Wichita that entire game.
And they're just, Wichita's just small, man. Unfortunately, but they are.
Arizona leads the country in assist rate. They've been moving the ball excellent. Some guy, Jack Stone, asked in the chat, do we like Tommy Lloyd? We love Tommy Lloyd.
Yes.
Love Tommy Lloyd.
He's incredible. He's going to raise his program up to, well, I guess heights they've been to before, say back up to the heights.
Yeah.
I do think Arizona gets the cover here. I'm leaning towards the Cats. So Matt, 2 Cats.
Matt, I'm surprised if you think it's going to be pick in a couple weeks that you think 3.5 is too high.
I guess I want to see it.
Too low.
I guess it's just like a suspicion. And I still watched Michigan against Buffalo. And that first half in particular is what really oh crap, Michigan may still have that gear. I don't know. We'll see. We will see.
All right, let's go to the Charleston Classic Championship. St. Bonaventure versus Marquette. Marquette has won 3 straight games as a dog. They've won three straight outright as an underdog, Matthew Cox. The Bonnies came back from down 14 points with 13 minutes to go to beat Clemson. Incredible comeback by them. Maybe a little defensive battle today. Maybe a little slower pace if the Bonnies can control the tempo, Matt. Who do you like in this game? This one's down, by the way, to 3.5, I think. I think it was open around 5.
Open 5 down to 3.5. Surprised the total's actually been bet up a little bit. 136.5 up to 137.5. This screams a rock fight. I know Marquette's been playing faster, but St. Bonaventure, it's sort of like Virginia. I think the really slow, methodical teams will always have the pace in their favor. And I don't think Marquette is any sort of, their offensive identity is still a work in progress. I think they're more of a pace taker as opposed to a pacemaker, as we like to say. So from a total perspective, I like the under here. I think both defenses shape up to stop the other one. Jim, I guess the key question is, Oshun, he's been banged up. I think he looked pretty good last game. But their backup's been just as good, whose name I won't pronounce because I'll butcher it yet again. But I think that
you got this. Cool about it.
No, I don't. It's too early. You can text me at 7:30 a.m. local time, and I'll try and get it right, but not at this current hour. Anyway, I lean under. No side take. What are your thoughts?
I kind of lean under as well because St. Bonaventure's guards don't turn the ball over, and that's really how Marquette has thrived. The pressure's been crazy. We saw them just destroy Andre Curbello's life against Illinois. He had 7 turnovers in that one. But the Bonnies are, I think, top 15 in turnover rate this year. They've got seniors all over that backcourt. They can take care of the ball, slow things down, dictate the pace, like you said. Kai, I'm glad you mentioned that Marquette won 3 straight as an outright dog because I was saying this year, I think Marquette's going to be a good underdog, and man, they have proved it. But unfortunately, the market and odds makers have caught on. I thought this number opened right about where it should be, and then coming down hasn't really surprised me either, given Marquette's performances lately. Right. And St. Bonaventure is 0-4 against the number first half. They have come out slow in every single game so far this year.
Shouts to Space Ace and the Mob Gym, exactly. Encouraging a Marquette first half. I think that makes a ton of sense. I agree.
Yeah, my only concern with that is that maybe this is the one where the Bonnies are finally focused. I think playing 2 MAC teams at home, they were a little sleepy.
Right.
Disappointing though in the tournament. I would have expected to see a better first half performance against Clemson, especially. Mm-hmm. So I sort of buy that Marquette first half just because we haven't seen it yet from the Bonnies. It's been a little bizarre.
Matt, I like your pace taker point on Marquette. I wrote down, I think they'll oblige the Bonnies pace. I think they'll let St. Bonaventure set it. And you're right, Jim, the pressure is what really got Illinois. Their 1-2-2 pressure, full court press. It's not going to bother St. Bonaventure too much with their experienced guards with Lofton. Marquette's also been white hot from 3 the last 2 games. You could argue Ole Miss outplayed them in that game, and Marquette was just balls hot. So that could regress here. And if it does, I think the Bonnies can get a pretty easy win here.
Yeah, they were down late in both the Ole Miss and West Virginia game. Well, not late, but they had to kind of have a second half surge.
Yeah, -3 right now at BetRivers with a little juice. I lean towards the Bonnies at -3.
One more note in this game. I almost missed that Greg Elliott debuted against West Virginia. Only played 12 minutes off the bench. I've sort of thought of him as a really key X factor on the perimeter. Maybe we see him play more. Maybe we see him make shots. He's a good defender. So just a guy who might kind of pop out of nowhere and make a little splash in this one.
I kind of forgot about him.
I know. A lot of players in this landscape of 358 teams, so it's easy to do.
Next game, Myrtle Beach Invitational Championship, Utah State versus Oklahoma. OU hasn't really played anyone. They barely beat East Carolina, who might be decent. I can't decide on them. And then
I hope not.
After Utah State's loss to UC Davis, they have wins over Richmond, Penn, and absolutely killed New Mexico State, which was super impressive, especially coming off the double overtime win against Penn. Two defensive squads here, Matt. Again, can you guard Justin Bean? Can you keep him off the glass?
No one can. He's unguardable. Unguardable. He's on a rocket ship to a Hall of Fame career. Nothing is stopping the Dean Bean. Kai, I'm throwing it right back to you. I think you have some skin in this game. So here's my 2 cents. I've been very impressed with Oklahoma as well, though. I worry that Utah State's value may be too inflated given some of these early blowouts. We'll talk about maybe some of the mid-majors later, but we've seen like teams like Longwood, for example, teams that just completely run roughshod over teams. Those are prone to getting overinflated in the analytic markets, which thus in turn drive the betting markets. That's my concern with this price. But what are you looking at here?
Utah State's my best bet. I'll spoil it.
Oh, there it is.
Plus 4.5 right now. I would have liked 5, but that's what BetRivers is at right now, 4.5. My one concern, guys, and Jim, everyone underestimates Rylan Jones because he looks like he's 10 years old.
Yep.
Him going against Gibson, Harkless, Goldwire, that seems like an uphill battle to me. That seems advantage Oklahoma on that end. So I'm worried about that. I do think Utah State's defense, though, can slow down OU's suspect offense. They do lead the country in 2-point field goal percentage. I think that's more of a consequence of who they played versus who they actually are.
You can go to like that opponent tracker on KenPom and see like their opponent 2-point percentage defenses are bad. Their block rates are all tiny.
Yeah,
which is why Oklahoma has had the least shots blocked in the country, or second fewest. These two teams are really similar. It's like a mid-major coach who got some huge wins in March, taking over a bigger program for the first time. They both got like really versatile bigs that can go inside out, which negates an advantage that both of them usually have. So I sort of lean towards the under as well. Both really like solid executing teams, but you guys mentioned Justin Bean on the offensive glass. Well, Oklahoma is 4th nationally in defensive rebound rate. So if anyone can keep him off the glass, hopefully it will be the rock solid Coach Sooners. No bet for me here though. Good luck, Kai.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Chat Bob, Matt, I think you got it, man.
I do. We got 3, unless I missed one, but a 2 for special from our guy Space Ace, asking about, of course, my beloved SIU Edwardsville Cougars, who got it done in emphatic fashion yesterday. Thank you, Rayshawn Taylor, for your emphatic onions. Jim, you watched it. I didn't see it, but I'm envisioning just some crazy Kobe-esque fadeaway 3 to win it.
Well, let me just briefly contextualize it, because Youngstown had the ball with like 3 seconds left and then just turned it over with 2 seconds left. I think it might have been over and back. And so SIU got the ball tied and then just hit a 30-footer. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, overtime's ever fun for underdog backers. So we like when that, concludes in the 40-minute regulation time. I like SIUE. I think it's pretty predictable for me at this point. I've been playing whack-a-mole all year, Kai, with St. Thomas. When I think they're a D3 team and they're terrible, they come out as against Youngstown and they make 18 threes and they grab 10 offensive rebounds. And I'm just like, I don't understand. But I think SIU is the better team. They're the more athletic team. They're a little bit banged up, but I think their athleticism overwhelms the St. Tommies.
I mean, St. Thomas has covered 4 straight games. Like that Chicago State loss really threw my rating off.
There's a chance that's the most confusing result of this. Like when we look back at it.
I agree. I'm leaning SIU.
Their defense is terrible. Like, look at the numbers. It's actually terrible. They just make shots and they
actually the second worst in the country.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a good enough rating on St. Thomas yet. They were my best bet on opening day against Chicago State. And so then they lost that game. So they must be terrible. And I haven't figured them out yet. There's no historical range to go off of. I can't figure out the Tommies.
It feels like we're trying to line like Bob Jones every time they play. It's like I don't really know.
Hey,
what
Chaminad's on the main board tomorrow, so
the
we
Silver
got
Swords.
to figure this out. Yeah,
we got to add them to the outline for sure. Okay, other one from Space Ace, Princeton, Oregon State. Jim, going to you. I think you have a take on this one. A take you're probably not proud of. I actually looked at taking the Beavers, the beloved Beavers, who I was fading early in the season. The line, I believe, sitting at 5-6 currently. I think I bet up 5.5. Okay, I think some early money pushed it up to 5.5 from 5. Tough spot for Princeton. Got to play cross country, and they're facing Oregon State, who's just lost 3 in a row. I got to think Oregon State is hyper motivated, but if you're not a good team, Jim, what does that really help you?
Yeah, I've been against Oregon State like the last 2 or 3 games. Like I had Samford for that outright win. That was great.
Yeah, I did too.
But I don't recommend anything over 5 here. I made this a little higher and liked Oregon State at that 4.5, but over 5, I would probably recommend staying away. I think under is probably a decent play too. Oregon State, very defensive squad, a little bit offensive challenge, and Princeton has that big travel, like you said. I think that will give them some issues, as will the athletic size of Oregon State. So at current numbers, I probably would say under, but stay away from the Beavers.
All right, last one here, and I'll holster the final batch for the end of this show. Kai, you mentioned East Carolina in terms of a team that we don't really know if they're good or if they're not good. They were hurt to start the year. They got Felton, one of their key guards, back recently. Still no Winston Tabbs yet, but they've been playing very well without him. They're playing Davidson. Adam wants to know what our take is on this one. I see the current price has been bet up to 5. Davidson laying 5. This is a neutral site game at the Myrtle Beach Invitational. What are you looking at here?
Yeah, so like I said, East Carolina seems like they've been doing well. So I'm looking at results. Okay, they didn't cover against South Carolina State. Doesn't look good. They beat Canisius by 12. I don't think Canisius is that good. Western Carolina, they won by a lot. I don't think Western Carolina is very good. They hung with Oklahoma. Okay, that's a really good result right there.
Yeah,
that's a good result. And they just killed Old Dominion, who is in shambles right now without Jones on the sidelines. So it's very hard to nail just how good ECU is. And I think Davidson's very good. Even though they've struggled the last couple of games, but at -5, I'm leaning towards the Cats.
I would agree.
Yeah, I like Davidson at 5. I think they out execute and take care of business here. No Winston Tabbs yet for East Carolina. He has not debuted, and has not been announced why. But I think they need him to hit their ceiling. Davidson can just execute, like I said, against them.
Love Winston Tabbs. I think he's like one of my favorite players in the country, irrationally, for like the last 4 years. So I'm sure I'll be betting on. I'll bet on ECU every game when he's back, but he's not. I don't think yet. So I'm with the boys on this one. Davidson, Kai, back to you.
All right, let's go down the rundown. Tennessee, North Carolina, the consolation prize for yesterday's.
Yeah, for the record, I put this below the first chat mod break because it's not a championship game. You got
not a championship. Still a really good game. I was shocked how thoroughly Tennessee was dominated by Villanova. They scored 0.78 points per possession, and they had 18 turnovers.
And it was way worse than that in the first half. They probably scored like 0.5 in the first half.
Jim, I still think Tennessee's a top 10 caliber team. They can get there. But I was pretty impressed with UNC. Like I said earlier, that wasn't a 9-point game against Purdue, who could be a top 3 team in the country. They showed me a little bit something in that game. Do you have a lean in this one? I
go back and forth on Carolina because their defense is bad. Like it's bad. It's over 100th in KenPom, and it belongs there. A very nice salve for what ails Tennessee right now. Their offense needed a bounce back performance, and I think they can get it against North Carolina's defense. Yesterday, I sort of agree. Like it was close for most of the way, but the final margin was 9. UNC had 2 banked in threes during the game.
They did.
That certainly matters a little bit. It was weird. I had a hard time evaluating that one in terms of rating for each team. So I'm kind of staying away here as well. I don't have a strong take in terms of what the tempo will be. So I don't have a total. And then, I'm not sure with Carolina yet. So nothing for me yet here, Matt. Are you back in your Vols against the Heels?
I wanted to. It's similar to the Arizona match we talked about earlier, where I was hoping to get a higher number, but opened 4.5, and it's been bet down to 3. So, Kai, sorry, nothing profound here. Just going to be a stay away. I'm looking for the Vols to finally back up my excessive love and praise, especially on the offensive end, where some of those old demons continue to pop up. I think Chandler and Vescovy, not Vescovy, SV. So,
our boy Boog,
lecturing us, which I appreciate. Love you, Boog. I think they're going to play better. I'm convinced Tennessee will figure out the offensive trials and tribulations. but you're going to have some of the episodes like we saw yesterday. It's just part of that's kind of the Rick Barnes path, I think, on offense at least.
It's curious. I go slightly the opposite way is Tennessee's offense can't exploit UNC's defense. And I'm more so playing with that angle, thinking, all right, UNC is not going to get burned on that end of the floor. And I know they can score even against Tennessee's defense, which is very, very good. I actually lean towards the Tar Heels. Leaky Black missed last game. I'm not sure if he really matters that much, but it is another piece on the wing. He's big.
Kai, they're your Tar Heels this year. They're your Tar Heels.
They are.
I know. I have to put my money. I don't think they're outside the top 50. So that's by definition value. So I lean UNC in this game. All right. Utah, Tulsa, Sunshine Slam Championship. It sucks to bet on Tulsa, Matt, but it worked out yesterday. In fact, it's worked out 2 games in a row because they've won 2 outright underdog winners. They have 2 outright dog winners. Utah extended late yesterday against Boston College, but kind of a battle. Maybe not a great sign. Your boy Craig Smith, Jim's boy Frank Haith. What do you like, Matt?
Here's what I do like.
I don't like Frank Haith is not my boy. I take that back.
I have no comment on that. Here's what I do. Here's what I will comment on. I like looking at Tulsa as a team that is playing well, Kai, and teams are actually making shots against them. You look at their opposing 3-point percentage, 37.6%. That's 290th in the country. So teams are actually cashing in on their open looks, which is always sort of that's how that defense is. It goes with the opposing shot making. The zone will allow you to take shots. If you can make them, you have a chance to beat them. If you don't, you're in for a world of hurt. And they've actually defended pretty well despite teams making shots against them. All that is to say, I think there's actually some value still on Tulsa, even though we don't want to admit it. We don't like Frank Haith. They've been good the last 2 games. There's actually a little bit of value here, in my opinion, Jim, even though I love Craig Smith. I think the brilliance of that offense is somewhat negated again when you play zone. So I think that could throw a wrench in what looks to be a pretty well-oiled Utah offensive machine so far.
Matt, I'll have you know that Utah torched Bethune-Cookman zone. So
did they play zone the whole game? I didn't watch that game.
No, it was like 15 possessions, but they destroyed it.
They did sort of. Okay, well there you
obviously go. Not an indicator of Tulsa's quality of zone. So I'm being mostly tongue in cheek there. I do think that's the concern. I love Utah this year, and I have been higher than the market on Tulsa. I've bet on them way more than I'd like to. So I made this line right about what it is. So I don't really see any value on either side. I'm just very curious to see what Utah does against a legitimate zone. Even though Tulsa has played more man, I think they're only at 17% zone per synergy. So we might actually see more man than we expect.
Okay.
Utah's offense, Matt, not quite well-oiled yet. 88th right now in efficiency, and they're 237th in turnover rate. I think there's still some kinks to be worked out, and that's understandable. They're very young.
Yeah, it's been a lot of throw it up and let's chase it on the glass. That's our. And
they have huge glass advantage against Tulsa, so that's obviously the way they're going to score here. I think Tulsa is going to make it ugly and force turnovers. So 5.5, that's very high to me. I lean towards Tulsa, even though I kind of hate betting on Frank Haith.
Oh, that reminds me. Another lean towards the under for me here. I think it will be ugly and slow. So.
Next game, Clemson, West Virginia, Charleston Classic, 3rd place game. Boy. Jim, I'm not sure West Virginia is 3 points better than Clemson.
I'm not either.
KenPom has it Clemson -1 and updated spread here. I think it's West Virginia -3. West Virginia hasn't looked crisp yet. And Bob Huggins, we know his frustrations with his Mountaineers so far.
He's not pleased. He continues to not be pleased. And that scoring explosion they gave up to Marquette is only going to reinforce his anger. I think Clemson can slow this game down. They've basically turned every game into just like a concrete mixer of disgusting. And Matt, sneakily, West Virginia's not playing fast on offense. They're like 260th in average possession length. They're not really trying to get out and run. The only reason their games get up tempo at all is when their pressure eats into people. And I think Clemson's guards can do an okay enough job here. They got Dawes, they got Honor, 2 guys that can handle the ball. The concern for Clemson, though, is I think they've exploited teams with their versatile bigs. Hall and Tyson can step out and shoot. They can put the ball on the floor. And West Virginia has guys to match up with that. Like Osaboyan, Bridges, Cottrell. Those guys can move. They can get out in space and defend. I think that takes away a key advantage for Clemson. So yet again, I sort of lean towards the under. I think this game's slow and a little bit inefficient in the half court. Matt, do you see it the same way, or are you back on your Mountaineers boys?
Yeah, I mean, I'll always find a reason to rationalize betting on West Virginia. Here's my feeble attempt to do so in this spot. Unlike Marquette, a team that is sort of looking in the mirror, right? Like for like, physical, athletic, tough, big. Clemson, that's been their MO in the past, but this year, as you mentioned, it's more about skill and finesse and the way they can shoot it. And so I think West Virginia really has a path to dominate them up front, to kind of impose their will, their physical advantage. So I think it actually plays well for the years today. I'm not going to lay at the current price, Kai. At the early money, hit it up from 1.5 to I think 3.5, 4.
3 currently.
3. I think 3 is maybe worth a small taste, but no big bet for me there. But I do like the years. I do.
I don't think they're 3 points better on a neutral right now.
So Bonnie is closed like 2.5, 3
Yeah.
against the same Clemson team. Matt, you're thinking West Virginia is still a little bit better than Bonaventure?
I do by a smidge. Yes. That could come back to haunt me like in 2 months, back to my earlier point about relooking at spreads 2 months in hindsight. But right now I'm holding on to that. Yeah. I think West Virginia is still better than St. Bonaventure.
Do you think Cottrell and Gabo can defend in space? Because I think
Gabo definitely can.
Gabo can
guard
too. Everybody.
Right.
Yeah. Gabo can guard.
Been awesome this year.
He's incredible. I can't. He's like one of the most improved people I've watched. Like last year, I was like, kind of a project big, not that's fluid. And now he's like smoothly stepping out and hitting trail threes and stuff. Like he's been great.
And these are former, I think, top 100 recruits, right? Hall and Tyson both. So it's not like some fluky walk-ons that have just come out of nowhere. They've just been slow to develop and or stuck behind the log jam of forwards that Brownell's had. So we shouldn't be, I guess, overly shocked by this Clemson development.
Clemson's 6th in the country in 3-point percentage. Might come down, might regress. So there's a point in West Virginia's side. All right, last game on the rundown. Colorado State at Creighton, versus Creighton. Paradise Jam semifinal. Both teams toughest tests by far here. Not a truly tough slate for either one.
Oh, come on. At Nebraska, Kai?
At Nebraska. Creighton was impressive against Brown. Hand up, I was on Brown that game. I was surprised.
Loser.
Colorado State almost lost to Bradley, which isn't great, Matt.
No, Bradley's awesome. Bradley's legit.
No, they're not.
Colorado State just still has the tendency of just not scoring for stretches. And I thought that was going to be solved this year, but clearly it hasn't been completely solved yet. They had a big drought against Bradley. So Matt, do you like a side in this game? I'll find a spread for you as you start talking.
I think it's 3.5. 3. Okay. Number sharp, felt low to just for gut, given how we've seen Creighton play, for the exception of the Brown effort and I guess the Nebraska efforts. Like we've seen Clemson, so Creighton starts off slow. They're starting to turn it on late. I think I'm still in the camp of Creighton has some weaknesses, some flaws they need to iron out just with their offensive pecking order. But I mean, Nemhardt's played really well, and those young guards are starting to really come into their own. They have Sharif Mitchell left. So I don't know, Jim. I go back and forth in my head on where I see Clemson. My gut tells me Colorado State's just the more Creighton. Sorry. My gut tells me Colorado State's the more complete team, that they should be favored by probably closer to 5 or 6. And I want to take them, but I have to respect what the Jays have done in the last 2. And so for that reason, I'll probably stay away.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like the baby Blue Jays are growing up like quickly before our eyes. Like the first 2 games was like, wow, this team has some issues, but it might've been just really cold shooting. Like I think they were sub 20% from deep in their first 2 games. Now they're starting to make shots, and Kai, they continue to dominate the paint. Your boy Kalkbrenner, you slander. They are 11th nationally in 2-point percentage, 20th in 2-point percentage defense. So basically, like a massive chasm in the paint, and some of that is schedule for sure. But Kalkbrenner and Kaluma have been terrific. Mm-hmm. They just need to be able to guard Roddy. He basically single-handedly dragged them to that win over Bradley. He had like 15 straight points in the second half. It was just like the David Roddy show. And he's the wide body, he's skilled. He's a really smart cutter. Can the young bigs of Creighton handle that? We'll see. Yeah. I'm staying away from this one.
A little worried about Roddy, Jim. Oh, sorry, Kai. Only 1 day of rest. I know he had back spasm early in the year, and I'm not a back spasms guru, but I believe rest and recovery is what you need to make sure that, to quell that pain. So a little concerned that maybe Roddy is not on a pitch count, but maybe not at his 100% effectiveness today. Just a hunch. And he is that important to this team. So it's worth noting.
I just think their front court's so much stronger than Creighton's right now.
It is. It's deeper, way deeper.
As tall, but they're stronger, I think. Creighton's D's been really good. That's been kind of their factor, their main success factor this year. Big age difference though. Colorado State, obviously very experienced, a lot of continuity. Creighton's still one of the best teams in the country. So maybe that shows through in a big game like this. I lean towards Colorado State.
I'm gonna hindsight the heck out of this. If Colorado State wins by 10, be like, why didn't I see that with the continuity and the yeah, for sure.
All right, Matt, chat mob before we remind the folks of our best bets and reveal some of our best bets.
Oh, sorry, I'm having a spam call come through my earwaves. That's not good. No one wants to hear that. We actually have no other requests in terms of games. The only one we did will be hit in the best bet section.
Fair enough.
I saw a couple other just
I'm
general.
so proud of you for
very nice.
Decoding that. I figured you'd just say the game and not realize that it was best bet. Look at you.
No, Maui Matt's a new Matt. It's a new era. I had Graham Haynes asking about the over-under splits on the MTEs. On the on-side of the show, I talked about the dynamic of these neutral site MTEs and the weird motivation thing that's given me the spooks a little bit. From a total perspective, I think historically it has leaned unders, earlier starts, neutral sites, lack of familiarity with the gym, the short rest turnaround. But last season, actually, I think almost trended toward the over in many cases. I don't know, Jim. I sort of think that the legs and wear and tear can actually hurt defense more than it can offense. So all that is to say, I have no idea. I think the pendulum's starting to swing back toward you have to attack it on a situational case by case basis as opposed to like a macro type of trend or sorts.
Yeah, agreed on situational. The one thing I'd say is a lot of these games today, the Charleston and Myrtle Beach both skipped yesterday. So they're not playing back-to-backs. Like they had the day off, a little bit of R&R, although perhaps they were at the pool and clowning around. These college kids are crazy.
If anyone was there, we need to know this. These are the reports we need from Chat Mob. So please get on this. Thank you.
Yep. But yeah,
best bets then.
That's it. Yeah, best bets.
Best bets it is.
Matt, best bet.
Actually, fittingly, just got a question from Kyle Sam about Ole Miss Boise under. I like Ole Miss. It's my best bet. I made this line a little bit higher than it is. I think Ole Miss should be favored by a field goal or somewhere in that neighborhood. Open-ended pick. It got bet up to -1.5. It's more about a matchup lean for me. Boise State, I think they're at their best when they can attack man defense, those slashers, those athletes on the wings. I think Kermit can he's got some tricks up his sleeve defensively. I think that thwarts Boise's offense. Just a good spot for the Kermit's gym, who we continue to be stubbornly fans of. So I like the Rebs today.
Yeah, I guess the point guard situation is still a bit of an unsettled question for Ole Miss, but I think you're absolutely spot on about how Boise is downhill driving, and against zones that's not really an option, especially
Makes
the way
you
Kermit
pass, execute right. That's not
it's not the same zone, so you don't get used to it. Like it morphs, it changes. He'll go 1-3-1, he'll go 2-3 at times. So I totally buy that. The other question in the chat mob was from Jamie Rush about Old Dominion and Penn. That will be my best bet. I am taking the Quakers. Penn +1.5 was what I saw last. Old Dominion's been terrible in this event. Like they lost by 15 to East Carolina and something like 100 to Indiana State. Their coach hasn't been there. Jeff Jones had to stay home with a health scare, and it seems like that's affected them on the court a little bit. And I've just been pretty impressed with Penn so far this season, especially with Max Martz back in the lineup, the versatile wing. They faded in the second half against Davidson, but it was the second game after a double overtime game. So I think Penn wins outright. Old Dominion goes home with the 0-3 record and has to figure things out with their coach back home.
Love it, Jim. Go Penn. Go Quakers. It has come down at BetRivers. I hate to tell you.
What's that?
Half plus half.
That's fine. Pick them. Money line, whatever. They're winning. It's fine.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. And mine was Utah State +4.5. Said earlier in the show. I'm not sure if it's moved since then. Thanks, guys, for coming out to our show. Field of 68, Best Bets. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, please, if you will. Hit the like button. Still want to get Matt in a grass skirt doing the hula. If we get 100 likes on one of our videos, we will.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Come on, folks. I want to see Matt moving those hips.
I do too.
I'm in a tough spot here. I'm supposed to endorse this, but you can see the pickle I'm in here. So no further comment.
We are back tomorrow, 12 Central, noon Central, to talk more games. We will see you then. Enjoy your